everyone. So, as you've seen in the title, well, it's not going to say this in the whole title. I haven't wrote the title yet when I'm recording this. But happy blue blood. That's interesting. Yeah, happy blue blood full lunar eclipse moon in Leo. Wowza, right? Just that's a whole mouthful right there. Okay, which sort of expresses, well, the fierceness of Leo, right? Like how big a Leo can be, how much power it can have behind it. Because this is lunar, it's very emotional. Because it's eclipse, it's about a lot of closeouts. Okay, anything that's in Saturn, everything else. We have to close things out for things to begin, right? Aquarius actually had a big message about that. Let's take a minute to center ourselves and breathe and be appreciative for what we do have, and try to raise our frequency, okay? Because I know that there's a lot going on, and I know that, of course, people can be happy, but this is kind of a, humanity as a whole, Mother Earth, there's a lot of shifts. So, however you do it, however you pray. Okay, you ready? So we're going to go in order of the zodiac, starting with Aries. I actually already turned over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards, interestingly enough, on Scorpio, which actually has their own card. Scorpio, I love you. You're so fucking deep. Excuse my French, but really, you are so deep. I love it so much. So in that, I would like to say that everything, as I mentioned prior, there are going to be big shifts, okay, big transformations, deaths of things, endings, really. But what that brings us is, with all death is life, right? And Scorpio actually is the perfect example of, whether you want to hear it or not, the truth is always in your face, but it's going to show itself pretty clearly. So it could be sudden, so that's why it's good to raise that vibration. It's good to feel good in that we are wherever we are, because that's where we're supposed to be. And although it can be frightening sometimes to move forward when there's a lot of unknowing to situations, especially if there are sudden endings or changes, but it all goes back to acceptance. And it's easy for me to say, at this point in time, but it is the truth of the matter. So, alright, so let's see what else. Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Interesting. Alright, Aries. Anyone who, well, Aquarius, interesting. Well, the first message I saw is that any internal anxiety that you've been having that's very old, that you've always had to sort of come back to and be like, why am I battling with myself about this right now? What for? And really realizing that it's not productive, right? It's actually sort of a blockage, and what it needs you to do is have faith in the situation that it's time to just make a decision about it. Especially, you have the 5 of Fire here, which you're a fire sign. Okay. 5 represents Taurus, which actually is the Hierophant, and that's the card that comes, and sign that comes after you. So there's something strong about faith. There's something strong about the structure of something, energetically speaking, particularly having to do with those of you, maybe this can also probably relate to people who have Aries in, say, Mercury or Mars, things like that. There's a little bit of an undercurrent of caution. An eclipse lasts usually until, I think it would be the next eclipse in, when's that? It's also in Leo in 6 months from now. So there's something about that where this is something that you're just going to have to compete with. This card can also represent competition. So that's just something that you may have to be up against and it's testing you, I also see that there is one particular person that you've been having the same argument with for a very long time. This could be you, of course, especially, but I see it more as another person, but that's the same thing, I also see Saturn rules the bones, and I feel like there's also an importance to that too. Like, you really want to be careful, be a little bit more cautious with your movements, you know what I mean? Especially if you're out like partying or anything, I see that could actually, you're not going to die, but like, you could hurt yourself. You don't realize, sometimes we don't realize our fragility until we are in a position where we're like, oh. I also see that you're going to get down to the how do I want to put it? Sorry. I guess it's just gonna, it's just stripping away what isn't really there to begin with. That's productive, Forgot to set a timer. Taurus, you receive the 3 of Tides, 3 of Cups. So I see that there's 2 other particular people that are in your circle that are really important to the whole. I heard for some of you this could be like your children. One of them is your child, and the other is an adult. Even if your child's an adult. I see that it will be asking you a lot about your social circles. It's going to be having you consider I just keep hearing something about the ocean. It's just asking you to look farther, look into the, like, out into the horizon. I see that could be very meditative for you also. It's like maybe it's sitting by the beach or by water, but far enough where your eyes, where you can tell that it's flat, Also see wherever your emotions are not deeply rooted, especially when Scorpio was the explanatory for the kind of overall energy for everyone, because that whole situation happened. And you're right actually above them. There's an importance to any sort of, I guess, surface friendships also will be null and void. For some of you, it could be fire signs that are the issue, and for some of you, it's earth signs. Excuse me. Well, that's important too, and that could be you, because we're our own worst enemies sometimes, but there's an air sign that's walking away. different viewpoints too, like where you connect with people. As I hear your higher mind, which is Sagittarius, that's where Jupiter's, Saturn is for you. Jupiter's in your 7th house. Okay, Gemini. Well, I see you want to be yourself. I see that you're sort of... I'm actually trying to see what the ultimate intention here is of reading this card. I feel very Gemini right now. In the sense that, because I could look at what this card means and just have it sort of naturally come out, but it's also the eclipse, so it's what's going to close out for us. So in that aspect, in ways of preparation, I would say that there's a closeout of feeling like any place where you feel like you missed the boat, mentally speaking. Not that you can't understand a thought, but where you think about, like, oh shit, I missed the boat, like I totally missed that. Like kind of that go back and guilt yourself for maybe something that a way that you chose something, or how you could have chosen it differently. And maybe it's that whole Gemini back and forth, but or at the same time even. But there's something about that where you no longer, it's not going to let you think like that anymore. You have to have higher expectations in yourself. There's like and not in a way of cockiness, it's because you really want to be involved, but sometimes you accidentally put yourself in a position of isolating. It's also going to have you become just becoming more of yourself too, particularly within the feminine aspect of yourself. Also see you saying no to certain things as well. Like just, if there's anything that's not growing, you're considering spring a lot right now too. March and spring, but you could also be thinking about there's something about Cancer also that's in this. Interesting. Sort of considering your role within something too. Like there's a place where you put on too much. There's something you put on too much of on yourself. And in a way it can be interesting, but there's something about it that causes a heaviness in your mind. So there's going to be a shedding of that too. I see the snake is important for you. Taurus, the horse is your animal. I can't see Aries animal yet. 3 of Wands for Cancer. Well, it's going to close out any fear you have of independence, which is great. Oh, Gemini, it's also going to close out a way that you think about your expectations also. Like your ability to rise above a situation, particularly energetically, even when your mind is really heavy. Okay? But Cancer, there's a warp and a weft, okay? You're weaving a new structure, okay? There's something so strong about independence, and that independence has so much to do with your own bringing you some sort of peace within yourself, okay? emotionally speaking, because I know that that's challenging for you, because that could also be it as well, is where you no longer can seek within others to fulfill your desires. Like you've been coming to this culmination, but now it's really the picture's becoming brighter. Okay, it still is. It still seems really far away, and you're not necessarily. There are going to be times where you don't feel that grounded in this process, but you know what you're doing. You're capable and you're experienced. And it's also testing your air element, which I know that this is air and fire, you know. So it's like, how do you handle these elements as a water sign? How do you use these elements to make your waters, you know, a temperature that you prefer, you know? Interesting. Gaining new respect in yourself. Lovely. Leo, you have the Lover's card. Well, for some of you, as an initial, it's going to close out anywhere that you haven't been able to make a decision about something in relation to relationships. I see this particularly personally versus work-wise. For some of you, it could be work, but that's not the point. A relationship is a relationship. But something about changing the channel. It's about it's going to cause you to look at the details of something and to the different layers of it and see how and where we have. This woman said it the other day, and I forget her. She commented, it was really smart. Where we rewrite the story, right, in our heads, so that something can become justified for us. You're very good at that, which in some ways is extremely diplomatic, you know, and in consideration of others. But the thing is any sort of decision that has to do with your head and your heart that isn't for your greatest good is going to be taken away. But the reason why that's happening is so that you can succeed in where it is that you're moving forward, because after this comes the Chariot, and then after that is the Strength card. Okay, so it shows me two steps, two really big steps. And then, you know, if you make the decision from an empowered stance, right, from a place where you're like, Hawkeye view, you know, you're like, all right, well, I can see this, and I know where I'm going, and I know where I'd like to go. I don't know exactly, it's not completely in focus yet, but it's going to come to fruition as long as I keep paying attention to how I also, the second part of the lesson, in a way, is that the ability that you can organize your thoughts in that way to justify, say, negative behavior that isn't for your highest good, when you already know that, but you roll with it anyway. If you do it from the other way, you're just going to step right up to the Chariot. I mean, and that's a bit of a challenge, but you can do it, because you know that right after that comes you. You know? And that's two steps, so that's the High Priestess, and 2018 is the High Priestess. So, you'll be fine. Alright, Virgo. You actually have your own suit. You have the Page of Pentacles, the student. This deck's a little different. It's going to push transformation within your creations, okay? It's going to have you look at the places that you put yourself down, You're just gonna have to start laughing at yourself more, okay? Like, that's that's what it's gonna do. Like, those parts where you start thinking about, you start analyzing and get in there, and then you're like, yeah, transformation, I'm the fucking hermit, I know, you know, like, I've been, because a hermit can really, those are the people that become monks, you know what I'm saying? And it's cool if you can do that. I admire it. But the point is that you're just going to see a situation differently. You're going to, your psyche is going to start learning. You're going to start learning from your psyche. Like, instead of muddling it, you're just going to remember what's happened to you, even if it was completely nuts and unsatisfying and whatever. And then you're just going to be like, well, that was fucked up. Oh well. You know? I mean, it's not going to be that easy all the time, but this is good. This is good. Because you're not a dunce. You're no dummy. Look how cool this character is. It's got so much going on. Different color, 2 different shoes, just not giving a shit. You know what I mean? Just being yourself. Like, why? It's like when I told Taurus, like, why can't a bull, you know, it's weird for a bull to wear, like, red sparkly pants and party hat. You know, well, this guy's already got, like, red sparkly pants and a party hat. You know, like, nobody thinks the hermit can do that either, but you can. You can. The more that Virgos start smiling, the less everyone will have this generalization that Virgo always looks like they're trying to solve a problem. You know what I mean? I love you so much. Shucks. I feel like I'm gonna run. I gotta see how much time this is. I have no idea. It's getting wild. 22. Shit. Alright, get 8. I got 7 minutes. Okay. 7 minutes divided by 6. That's a minute apiece. Let's go. Libra. Not to hurry. I love you. 4 of Cups. Libra, you are going to, wherever you feel like you cannot lean on someone, wherever you emotionally ignore, that you keep people in your life that you cannot emotionally lean on, and that are passive, like, no more. You actually had this card in your reading, remember? How long are we going to sit in this boat? I'm fucking starving. Why are we even in this boat? Where are we going? It's Libra speaking up. If 150 years ago this hasn't happened for that long, that means that a Libra can say that now. I think 150 years is polite enough and courteous and cordial enough to wait, don't you? It's also going to strip you of anything that you feel emotionally dissatisfied with. And considering this is a 4 and Saturn's in your 4th house, that's wonderful. That means you're going to be healing emotionally and start growing, like, more stable foundation emotionally about your upbringing from childhood, and about home and everything else. It's wonderful. And it's great, even better, because, again, Scorpio has death, which it means that this transformation is huge. Okay? Now, Scorpio, my babes. Anywhere where you don't think that you're good enough, also, you have that. You also have a bit of looking back into Libra, or if some of you have strong Libra in your chart, like, about your emotional stripping that away. I see it also, it has to do with you energetically and emotionally. I see that the best thing for you to do is to, I heard, to turn around and you can examine the past, but it's sort of what I was just telling Virgo. It's about, you're not necessarily going to laugh about it, like maybe internally, but just there's something about acceptance and nurturing those parts of you, okay? Like, but you are going to be examining it. Also, I think it's of course Scorpio, the skeleton that's looking up at the 2 skeletons, okay? So it's just gonna make you look at who you are, and you're going to be so cleansed, okay? That's also like a chunk of time that Jupiter will be in your first house. You're going to do fine. Okay, Sagittarius, you have the Empress. Well, for some of you, this is going to have to do with a situation having to do with the mother, okay, like, or motherly qualities. It's going to make you look at your nurturing qualities, like how much do you nurture yourself, how much do you nurture others, what have you learned over I heard the last year about your friendships. It's going to ask you, what are you growing? What do you want to grow in the future, okay? It's an important release as well. I see the starfish. Okay, Capricorn, I don't want to run out of time. I don't mean to rush. Capricorn, you have the Ace of Cups. Sorry, I'm shaky. It's cold in my house. Ace of Tides, well, Ace of Cups. It's going to have you look at your own emotional peace within yourself. Having to do with your mother and having to do with the people that you've had intimate partnerships with. You're just going to be considering it. It's important for you to consider. Saturn is asking you to be deep in these waters because Pisces is coming and there's going to be a lot of water and you're not very much used to that. Most of us aren't used to that much water. So in that, saying that, I want to say that you already have a good foundation, but it's about you accepting that, okay? Knowing that you are the ultimate one who decides your fate. Okay? I just got the craziest shooting pain in my back. Drink a lot of water too. I'd see that will help you. Aquarius, you have the Two of Cups. It's two wolfies. Well, it's going to have you look at past soulmates. It's going to have you look at your relationship if you're involved, most definitely. I don't see anything necessarily negative happening with it. It's actually surrounded by pretty positive cards, but there is a need for something about Scorpio has to do with this, but it's where there's like this certain kind of patience needed. But there's a situation where one person looks at a situation one way and one person looks at a situation another way. But it really depends which way you're looking to what the reality of the situation will be, if that makes sense. But either way, there's going to be a significant decision to be made. But all in all, everyone, there's a possibility for everyone to learn something great about their own ability to learn something new, okay, from the situation, whatever it may be. Can't lose if you're alive. So Pisces actually received the Temperance card in reverse, which I think is interesting. Basically what this is saying is, Pisces, anywhere where you have been fighting, changing, anywhere that you've been fighting with your ego, that's going to be I heard washed away. Not that you won't deal with your ego, because of course you will. Everybody does. But I think your house, especially, can be challenging within that. But there's a lot of secrets in there. But the point is that you're going to have to keep a lot of patience and understand that it goes back to the viewpoints that I was saying with Aquarius. You will be learning. Virgo is so important. It's also mirroring back up at Virgo, okay? So that message is obviously for you, too. I also see something about your intimate partnerships, like where they come from and how Scorpio affects. I guess it could be for those of you who have Scorpio chart strong, but where it affects that watery realm. Okay, there's something about it. But for everybody, just so we know as we close this out, the bottom of the deck is the Six of Swords, which is healing, and then Judgment underneath that. So we can't lose, okay? That's a crow. It's the sacred creature that always has one eye on us to protect us and one eye on spirit. You know? Alright, I'm wishing everyone the best on this transition. Excuse the speeding up at the end. I didn't realize how much time I spent. It's all important. We all have these parts in our charts.